Welcome to the Such a Sport podcast. I am your host, Stephen Defries. This is episode 1. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being on the journey. For the 3 or 4 of you that decide to tune in, I hope you find this somewhat enjoyable. On a serious note, what is Such a Sport? It's everything related to sport. And what I found in my podcast listening is that I'm having to go to different experts at different times for my sport content, and that's okay. I want to hear from the experts, and it's important to be an expert and not a generalist at times. But also sometimes I just want to listen to some sports chat through the morning or through the afternoon, whatever it is I'm doing. And it's either heavily focused on NRL, which I love, it's one of my favorite sports, or it's heavily focused on AFL, which I kind of like. But there's nothing broad spectrum for sports lovers like myself. So, I listen to the Bill Simmons podcast. He's a big hero, big inspiration. He's the man, Bill Simmons. I listen to his content for NFL and NBA. I listen to a lot of the other Ringer podcasts for that sort of content too. The Zach Lowe show for NBA content. The Howie Games. How good is that show? How good's Howie with his guests that he has on across different athletes across different sports? The Hello Sport guys, fucking hilarious. Make me laugh every single morning on my way to work. But they do keep it pretty pigeonholed to rugby league and cricket, with a couple other sports thrown in at times. So for me, I wanted this to be a platform for general sport chat, discourse, opinion. Of course, my opinion, but I'll obviously love to engage with you guys too. I will have guests on through the weeks of the show to bounce off and grab their opinions. Some really high-profile guys that you may know through sports media, and some others that are just like me or just like you at home, a fan with an opinion and hopefully someone to listen to it. So we have a big show planned today. We're going to talk Ashes cricket, of course. We're going to talk the NRL upcoming season. Only slightly. There's not a lot to talk about in the NRL off-season, which is a welcome change, I'm sure, for a lot of us. We're going to talk NBA. I'm a huge NBA fan, as you can tell from my shirt. We're going to talk a little bit of NBA. We're going to talk about the Australians doing well in the NBA. Dyson Daniels has just had a career week in the States for the Atlanta Hawks. He's killing it over there. He's got a young brother playing in the NBL. We're going to talk about that. We're obviously going to talk about the battle of the sexes. So Nick Kyrgios versus Arina Zabalenka. They played each other on a modified court under modified rules. Was it good for tennis? Was it good for the conversation around female sport? We're going to get into that a little bit. But I also want to get into the Australian Summer of Tennis coming up, speaking of. And will Nick Kyrgios, will he get that wild card into the Open? There's calls for him not to. He didn't look, let's just say he didn't look match fit in his match against Zabalenka last week. So that's the show we've got planned for you. Please sit back, relax, enjoy. And if there's anything you don't like that I've got to say, I don't care. No, of course I do. Thanks for listening. All right, let's get into our first topic. I want to talk NBA. I want to talk Dyson Daniels. So for the NBA lovers out there, what is there more to say about the NBA this season? Viewership numbers are up. The Christmas Day games were absolutely outstanding, bar one blowout. And viewership was up the highest it's been in the last 15 years of NBA Christmas Day games. So if that's not an indication of how healthy the NBA is right now, I don't know what is. And there's been a bit of discussion around what that could be. Netflix recently did a show, Starting Five. It's been canned, so it can't be that. The viewership numbers on that weren't great. Is it a newer generation that's bought into the NBA? Potentially. I think there's 2 major factors, though, as my camera wobbles. Number 1, basketball outside of football, I think, is the most global game, global sport that there is right now. If you look at the top 5 NBA players, they come from different countries other than the US. So you've got the Joker, right? He's Serbian. We've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's Canadian. We've got Giannis. I'm not going to try and say his last name, but we've got the Greek Freak. He's Greek. He's Greek. We've got Luka Doncic, Slovenian, right? And then we've got Wembanyama, who's French. So right now, the top apex players in the NBA all come from other countries, particularly Europe. So the strength of the NBA right now through foreign players is contributing to higher viewership. I have no doubt. It really is the Champions League of basketball. It's the epicenter of all talent, and the depth has never been greater. Factor number 2 is this transitioning from the old guard to the new guard. The familiarity that we now have with these new players at the top of the game and some of the younger guys coming through. I mean, Cade Cunningham, Tyrese Maxey, they're having incredible seasons this year, and they've been on the brink of some incredible seasons. And if you're an NBA nerd like I am, you've seen these players coming through. But for the casual fan that's not going to watch 2, 3, 4 games a week and just tunes in for the playoffs at the end of the year and sees a headline here and there, these guys are really at the forefront now. We've got to see their journey and then watch them explode in 25, 26. So Cade Cunningham, as I said, and Tyrese Maxey, he's just been so good to watch. And with the absence of Joel Embiid at the 76ers, he's really had to step up and has done such a great job alongside their rookie VJ Edgecombe. We'll get to the rookie class a bit later. As I said, we want to get to the Australian players, but in terms of what has led to the explosion in viewership and the interest in the NBA right now, it's those two factors. It's a world game now, and number 2, the transition of stars, right? So I mentioned them all before. Luka Doncic, world star. Everyone wants to be Luka. Everyone wants to watch him play. Luka Magic, he's great to watch. Other players that are right on the tip of the tongue that are coming through that you're going to see some huge depth right now. I want to talk about Denny Advia, another great foreign player who's playing unbelievable basketball right now for the Portland Trailblazers. You've got a resurgence in the Clippers. And actually, I want to get back to what I was talking about earlier. So the transition, right? So the transition from KD, from Steph Curry, from LeBron James, these guys that we've been holding on to, I really think their last stand was the Olympics in Paris, right? That last gold medal game, or even the semi-final against Serbia or maybe it was the quarterfinal that they should never have won, that Steph got them out of. And then that final, that was the apex of that group of players. They've been in our lounge rooms for 15, 20 years and a household name around the world. And they gave us their one last hurrah, their one last shot at greatness, and delivered. We've just got a bit too used to those names and didn't know these new guys coming through. And I think now that we do, we've seen this explosion in viewership. And, the amount of close games and epic encounters at the start of this season, I can't remember the last time. Maybe it was 2016, I think, was the last year that I can remember there was this much excitement about the NBA and this many close games, epic finishes, brilliant performances. It's just really exciting. And that leads us into the Australian guards led by Dyson Daniels at the moment. We'll talk about Josh Giddey. He's just been injured, obviously, did his hamstring. He'll be reevaluated in 3 to 4 weeks. But what Dyson Daniels is doing at Atlanta right now needs to be spoken about. We talk about Josh Giddey a lot, but we don't give Dyson Daniels his due. And what he's doing and what he did last season on the defensive end of the ball, leading the league in steals. He should have been deeper into the conversation around the defensive player of the year. That went to Lou Dort on a championship team, fair enough, but I didn't think Dyson Daniels was getting enough focus and enough spotlight on him for what he was able to do in that season. He had the most steals since Gary Payton. I mean, these are things that, we're not talking about here in Australia. He doesn't have quite that profile, but we need to lift that profile because Dyson, as I said, has been phenomenal. So Atlanta are struggling a little bit with their transition from, or should I say integration of Trae Young into their team. Trae has been their point guard and star franchise player now for 6 or 7 years. And with him out injured, the team was performing quite well. They've gone and got a generational star, I believe, in Jalen Johnson come through their team. They've picked up Kristaps Porzingis, who's been suffering from illness, a mystery illness. It's not so mystery anymore. He was able to get a diagnosis. I can't remember the specific condition that he has, but what it does is really debilitating. So You may or may not know this, but if he just stands up and is vertical, his heart rate goes straight to 180 and a max heart rate level, which is obviously pretty scary. He gets it under control for weeks at a time, and then it flares up again. Atlanta, they've got a really good young core, particularly with Dyson Daniels and Jalen Johnson. They've picked up Nickel Alexander-Walker, who is shooting lights out at the moment, has been a great pickup for them. But Trae Young, who's been injured to start the season, has been their franchise star. They were doing really well since they've reintegrated him back into the team. Trae's not a noted defender. He's a great offensive player, but a great passer of the ball. But his three-point percentage has been down, and his defense hasn't been very good. It never has been. It hasn't been something you'd hang your hat on. But if he's not going to shoot the three ball well, and he's not going to defend well, that's going to present some problems for Atlanta to work through. They are at the moment. I still think they can make the playoffs. I still believe they can make a deep run, particularly off the back of the defense of Dyson Daniels, but the rest of the team need to get that back together. But I really wanted to highlight what Dyson is doing. Josh Giddey had a phenomenal start to the season. He was probably a pretty comfortable pick for the All-Star game before things started to go south for the Bulls. Giddey's form did drop a little bit during that time. The Bulls are now under 500. I don't think Josh is going to get picked for the All-Star game, and I don't think he deserves to, if we're being honest. But obviously he's having a great season. Those two Aussies right now are the Aussies that we should be focused on in terms of supporting and showing our love. And one more guy who has been a totally unsung hero this season so far is Jock Landale. He's been stepping in at the Memphis Grizzlies through some injuries that they've had. He started at times at center, started at times at power forward, and has delivered, has absolutely delivered and shone in those starting spots. So great to see Jock Landale doing so well over in the NBA right now. We obviously have a myriad of NBA players from Australia that we can talk about, but those three I wanted to highlight today before we move on to our next topic. You guessed it, it's the battle of the sexes and Nick Kyrgios. What is going on, Nick? What is going on? And I'm not talking about the match itself, whether it was good for tennis, bad for tennis, good for the women's game. I think there's a lot of clickbait artists out there and publications, media that want to talk it up as a bad thing or a good thing. I don't think it was anything. I just think it was a massive waste of time. I don't think it proves anything. But in terms of the age that we live in right now, which is entertainment, maybe there were some people that were keen to tune in and just see what happens. Does that harm the women's game? I don't think so. I don't think there's a logical person out there that believes a woman could beat a male in tennis. And that's not meant to be controversial. That's not meant to stir up any emotions in anyone. That's just common sense. Now, Serena Williams has herself said that she could not beat a male ranked in the top 1,000 at her peak. That's Serena Williams' words, right? So this is just the reality of the situation, men versus women. Now, they played a modified rule set on a modified court, and it was somewhat competitive at times. There was some fun rallies. I didn't watch it, but I did watch some of the highlights. I don't think it did any harm. It didn't do any harm. And as I said, the age that we live in, the entertainment value, the quick 20-second hits of content that we can throw out there to say this happened and whatever. I don't care for it myself. I know some people did enjoy it. I think it's great that Zabalenka put herself out there to have a crack, and she played quite well. I mean, it wasn't embarrassing. It didn't put any shame on the women's game. I read somewhere on X that someone had written, this has set the women's game back 20 years. No, it hasn't. I'll still tune into women's tennis like I do every year at the Australian Open and the other majors. It'll make absolutely zero difference to viewership, to how people view women and how they play tennis. So absolute hyperbole from people that I think just want to cause controversy for the sake of it. But let's get to the Australian Open and the summer of tennis. And let's get to this could be controversial, one of my favourite tennis players ever, one of my favourite athletes ever, Nick Kyrgios. That's right. I mean, a Nick Kyrgios fan, probably to my own detriment at times, because he can be super frustrating, particularly if you like the guy. in an age where a lot of our athletes are bland and give the cliched answers. Yeah, I want to give credit to the boys, and it's all a team effort, and it's not just about me, and I really want to pay tribute to our fans, and we just worked really hard. We didn't turn the ball over. Uh, we controlled possession. We got the job done. In an age where you get that in every single interview, no matter what sport, right? Obviously the context changes, but in whatever sport it is that we're listening to an interview in, that's what you're going to get. So, oftentimes, what the fuck was the point in that interview? It's the exact same verbatim response to the interviewer's questions every single match, every single game, every single week. All right. So if we want that, fine. But I don't know why we're paying these athletes so much if we just want to hear them speak really eloquently, put their sentences and their words together really well, and give us a cliche every single time they're asked a question. No thanks. I want to see the Nick Kyrgioses, and at times he's gone too far, but I want to see a bit of Nick Kyrgios being raw, being emotional, telling it how he really thinks. If you're offended by that, you have a choice to watch or not to watch Nick Kyrgios. And I know a lot of you choose not to, but I can tell you a hell of a lot of us do choose to watch him now. Unfortunately, in the last couple of seasons, mainly due to injury, but also we know that his commitment to the game and the commitment to his training and his commitment to excellence generally has been somewhat poor, and his talent has always outshone that. It's gotten to a point now where his body is really starting to break down. So my understanding of his wrist injury is he's had a surgery done on that just doesn't work, and has never worked long term. It's a brand new surgery. This is a wrist injury that ended the careers of Juan Martin del Potro. There's another Austrian tennis player that escapes me right now that was doing really well, made a couple of French Opens in recent memory for French Open finals. Dominic, can't think of his last name. Bugger. I'll look that up quickly while we're talking, but this is a serious wrist injury that's ended Thomas Johansson. For those that remember Thomas from back in the day, it also ended his career. Dominic Thiem. So Nick's been working his way back from that, but whilst he's been working his way through that, he's also had some knee issues, ankle issues, you name it, he's had it. And, we all know that's because of his lack of conditioning over the years has probably put a toll on his body. So as a fan of Nick, when he's at his best and when he's at his absolute peak, that can be super frustrating. And that brings us to the question, does Nick Kyrgios deserve a wild card into the Australian Open? And putting my bias aside, I'm not convinced he does deserve it on the merits of tennis. On the merits of tennis, I'm not sure that you could give Nick a wild card over some of the other aspiring juniors that we've got in our system that would love to be on that stage and have probably worked their absolute asses off through the heat of this summer to be in peak physical condition to do it. Now, the argument for Nick, and the one that I would make, is the entertainment value, the ticket sales, the viewership. So that's where in golf, they call it a sponsor's exemption. So a sponsor of that tournament is able to give a sponsor's exemption to one player who they think will bring more patronage, more fans, more viewership numbers to that particular tournament, which will obviously give their product more exposure. And so Nick, I would say that every single sponsor of the Australian Open and the broadcaster, Channel 9, will want Nick Kyrgios in the Australian Open, because I guarantee you, it doesn't matter what condition he's in, people are going to tune in. The ratings speak for themselves. You can be shouting at your audio right now and saying, I'm not watching. Fine, but people do. The ratings don't lie. People watch Nick Kyrgios. He's box office. Okay, that's undisputable. It's a fact. So from that perspective, Nick probably deserves a wild card. However, there's a caveat as far as I'm concerned. And that was the condition I saw him in that battle of the sexes. He did not look lean, mean, or like a machine at all, right? At least in the last couple of seasons when he's turned up for the Australian Open, he looks like someone who's been putting in and at least training somewhat. He did not look in good peak physical condition. So if we're going to offer Nick a wild card to come in for entertainment value and he's going to get beaten 6-2, 6-1, 6-love, I'm not sure that does anything for Tennis Australia or its sponsors. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to say that I don't think we can give Nick a wild card into this Australian Open unless he can show us something in the lead-up tournaments. I believe he's playing Brisbane, so let's see how he looks there. Maybe he's had some time to put some work in and some training in. Maybe my eyes were deceiving me in that battle of the sexes, but I don't think we can take an opportunity away from a young junior who's been working their ass off all summer to make this happen. So that's my thoughts on Nick. In terms of the Australian summer ahead, we've got the United Cup on at the moment. We've got Alex de Minaur. I love you, mate. All right? I fucking love your fight. I was a Leighton Hewitt stan for as long as I can remember. You ask anyone in my inner circle, I would defend Leighton Hewitt and his abilities, his grit, his passion, his fight to the very end. He's your coach, and you are Leighton Hewitt reincarnated. You are everything that Leighton Hewitt was. Everything. You're a fighter. You get extra balls back. You motor around that court at speed, and you never give up. You never give in. And that's what we love about you as Australians, mate, because that's what we're all about. And that's what everyone doesn't like about Nick, because at times he just throws the towel in. And we know we're never going to get that from you. But I just find it hard to watch Alex and buy in at a level beyond that. And the reason is we're just going to get our hearts broken because he doesn't have the weaponry. Doesn't have a big forehand, doesn't have a big backhand, and he doesn't have a big serve. He doesn't have at least one of those as a weapon that he can draw on when he needs to finish a point. He's going to outwork, he's going to outrun, and he's going to outfit a lot of opponents between round 1 and the round of 32. But once he gets through to that round 4 quarterfinal stage of majors where he has struggled, the big dogs just have too much firepower for him. They can end a point quicker, right? If they need to, they can pull up a big shot, and all of the running and all of the fight and all of the speed that Alex has just gets taken out of his hands. We've seen it happen with Carlos Alcaraz. We've seen it happen with Yannick Sinner. Yannick Sinner just owns him for that reason. He just bullies him with the firepower that he's got from the back of the court. So I love you, Alex. I will tune in because I'm an Aussie patriot and I love watching Aussies do well. And I hope that you can just get the draw that you need and the matchups that you need to potentially get you through to an Australian Open semi-final. But I hate saying it because I'm not hating on Alex, but he's just doesn't have what it takes to win an Australian Open at this stage. So then I look to, and I had been looking to Alex Popyrin a couple of years ago with his forehand, big serve, big forehand. Alex Popyrin's won a Masters 1000. Do you guys understand how big that is? A Masters 1000? They're the only events on the ATP Tour outside of the Grand Slams where the top 100 players in the world are compelled to play. So they're 3-set majors, full 128 player draws, some of them, through the year. They are not easy to win. No Australian since Leighton Hewitt had won one before Alex Popyrin won a Masters 1000 a couple of years ago. So he's got the game to do it. I don't know where he is right now in terms of his preparation for the Australian Open, but if I was looking for a player to go deep in the Australian Open, it's going to be Alex Popyrin if he's on. So let's hope he is. I'll be getting right behind him. He's got a better chance than Alex de Minaur. A lot of you are going to be going, Alex de Minaur is ranked in the top 10 and da-da-da-da-da. Alex de Minaur is going to get his ass whipped once he gets to a quarterfinal. They're just the facts. So you're better off investing your time into a guy, Alex Popyrin, who's got bigger weapons and who I believe if he had Alex's mentality and Alex's consistency, he would have won a major potentially. Who knows? So I'm really big on Alexei Popyrin. for the Australian Open this year. Can't wait to watch it. Can't wait to watch him play. Outside of that, tennis is a bit fucking boring at the moment because of what Yannick Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz are doing. And there's been a lot of talk about the too much consistency from tournament to tournament of the tennis ball. So I've heard a few players speak out, particularly Roger Federer, and one of my other favourite tennis players that everyone seems to misunderstand, in Daniil Medvedev. And what Federer and Medvedev have been vocalising recently is that the tennis ball is the same at all tournaments, and it's really, really slow. Slow tennis ball through the air, slow tennis ball off the court. What does that mean? More rallies. It means more rallies. It means it's harder to penetrate the ball past your opponent, which makes finishing a point harder unless you have major, major, major artillery. And do you know who has major, major, major artillery? Carlos Alcaraz and Yannick Sinner. Those guys can generate their own power that no other players can, and that's why they're dominating the tour at the moment. Those guys, I love watching them play when they're playing at the highest level. You can appreciate it, but in terms of when I'm a fan, I want to know that there's a chance, right? Even though I might be going for the player that's favoured to win, that's dominating the match, has dominated tournaments or through the year. I want to know there's a chance they can lose. It's like watching a Rocky movie, right? You're still in the back of your mind think maybe Rocky's going to lose this match, right? The logic says that the script writers probably have Rocky winning at the end of it, but there's still I still want to feel that bit of fear that a player could lose and the best player in the world could lose at any time, or the underdog could win at any given moment. That's what makes sports so great. And right now with Yannick Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz, I don't feel that. And until we unearth a couple more players that can generate speed like that, or until as Roger Federer and Daniil Medvedev have voiced, until we change the tennis balls, at least across a few tournaments, so that there's more speed and other players can finish points quicker, these guys are going to dominate for the next few years, and that's not good for tennis. Don't worry about the battle of the sexes. Change the tennis ball. But Australian Open's coming up. Can't wait. It's one of my favourite times of the year, so really looking forward to that. Let's get to the Ashes. So, bit of a fizzer. I mean, I was looking forward to that all summer, and we just dominated them. I don't know if I haven't watched a lot of England cricket. I watched their incredible finish to a Test match against India earlier in the year, but it was a series that they didn't win. Baseball. I mean, how hilarious has it been to hear them talking about baseball when they've been so unsuccessful in Test matches and Test series across that time that it's been in place. But they came here with a lot of hype. The best England team of the last 20 years and the worst Australian team of the last 20 years. And then we just smashed them. It wasn't a contest. It wasn't close. 2-day test in the first test, and then we just railed them in the next two. So a little bit disappointing because once again, you like that fight. I wanted to beat them 5-0, but a part of me also wanted it to be a live test match, at least going into the Boxing Day test, and it wasn't. So, I think we could talk and dissect a lot around the Ashes, and Travis Head, he's an absolute god amongst men, as is Mitchell Starc, but it just didn't live up to the hype this Ashes series. I've spoken to a few mates who feel the same. I wanted to get excited about it. I wanted to be invested on my couch deep into a second or third session on day 5 of a test match, and it didn't quite work out that way for us. The Sydney test match is on right now as we speak, and I didn't watch any of day 1. That is unheard of for me for an Ashes. I mean, this is what we live for, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't watch a ball bowled on day 1 yesterday, and I've watched limited, as I look up how we're travelling right now, very, very limited amount of cricket today in my spare time because it's a dead rubber. Test cricket, Ashes cricket, It's the purest form of the game. It's not going anywhere. But finding it exceptionally hard to get into the back end of the series and to stay excited about it. If we win 4-1, we lose. If we win 3-2, if it stays at 3-1, so what? But obviously some phenomenal performances across the series itself. Something we should celebrate. We should never turn our nose up at winning an Ashes series. I know that. I've been around when we were losing Ashes series after winning them for so long. I'll never forget 2005, probably one of the top 3 greatest ever Ashes series played. It won't ever be in my top 3 because we didn't win it. The 5-0 return series where Ricky Ponting led us to redemption certainly is in my top 3 Ashes series of all time because we got that revenge, and I remember hurting at the time and couldn't believe that we'd let it go. And my father, he always reminds me that we used to lose a lot in cricket, so don't take that for granted, and don't ever hope for closer series because it doesn't always work out that way. And through the late 2000s, early 2010s, we did go through a bit of a lull in Australian cricket, which taught me to really celebrate when we do win. Absolutely, we should be sticking it to the Poms. As I speak, we're 1 for 147 in response to their 384. So looks like we're absolutely giving it to them again, which is fantastic. Mitch Stark's been phenomenal. Just couldn't speak more highly of his consistency across the series and how he came in to spearhead an attack that was missing 2 of our greatest ever bowlers, really. I mean, Mitch Cummins, many have Mitch Cummins ahead of Stark in the pecking order of greatest Australian fast bowlers ever, but I think there's a conversation there. There's at least a debate that's not a foregone conclusion when it comes to Starkey and Pat Cummins. From a talent perspective, Cummins, he's outstanding. Captain Pat he's an all-time great of Australian cricket, but what Mitch Stark has been able to do consistently now for over a very long career, if you look at not just the red ball but the white ball and how he's able to swing that ball and turn matches on its head. Oh man, I mean, we're going to be talking about Starkey for some time, and I reckon, much like the NBA debate around LeBron James and Michael Jordan. By the way, they're the 2 greatest ever. So, when someone says, "Oh, LeBron James is shit," what are you talking about? He's shit. He couldn't lace Michael Jordan's boots. Yes, he could. Right, and I'm not going to tell you who I think the GOAT is. I think there can be more than one GOAT. In tennis, there's 3 GOATs, by the way. Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, and Novak Djokovic, they're the 3 GOATs. I hold them all on the same level. They elevated tennis to a level it's never been and never will be again, at least not in my lifetime. Those guys are the 3 GOATs. What I will tell you is that Michael Jordan and LeBron James are potentially the 2 GOATs of basketball, but the point I want to make about those 2 is that there are LeBron James fans that have never seen Michael Jordan play, and you will never be able to convince them whatsoever that Michael Jordan could have possibly been better than LeBron James. Vice versa, people that were alive and lived through the Michael Jordan era, no one will ever reach or attain that level. And so you'll never be able to tell them that LeBron James or anyone else can get close to them. Now, the point I want to make about Pat Cummins and Mitchell Stark is there's a few people that have seen more of Mitchell Stark than Pat Cummins, and you won't be able to convince them that Mitch Stark, I believe, is better than, but Pat Cummins is better than Mitch Stark. I mean, that's a possibility. And if you look at the stats, 50 years from now, people that have never seen these guys play, they're going to go, really? Do we really think Pat Cummins was better than Mitch Stark? There's a conversation there, but both are obviously great. The way Paddy came back in Adelaide was fantastic. And the boys are looking really good in this 5th test match now. We'll do a bit more analysis in the next podcast. I'll have a a guy on who I won't reveal now that knows a hell of a lot more about cricket than me, and the ins and outs of this particular series. So we'll get into that then. We'll take a short break now, and then we'll come back with a bit more.